Sharp angles created by moonlight on Will's memorial create divine depths that endlessly inspire.
Nurse Earth's young minds from up high, presented with depth, will plunge into tidal term time ticks.
Glimmering potential festers like microorganisms in between library books, with knowledge encased in letters comprising words that beg to enlighten. I smile at faded stamps on the inside cover from decades past, and wonder who else's brains these words have enriched.
I've always wondered how long it would take to produce a paper, how intelligent and resilient you must be to find each fact, conduct each experiment, type each word. Would I ever have a similar thirst so strong only knowledge can quench it? As I drink from this fountain of enlightenment, I taste the potent philosophies, feel the sweet wisdom slip down, wishing I could share my cup with more people.
They come here to gaze with a new perspective, out into the system of human condition. I came here to run with a distant vision, along sharp-edged lines of enshrined tuition. Let preconceptions undergo fission, until like yeast minds grow. Use us to rise.
There's no upper limit to inspiration. Just ask the photons of light that travel from the moon to pondering brains each evening, creating in me an insatiable curiosity, enveloping my tangled, thriving neurons, much like the growing roots of this institution.
My dreams are nurtured by my tutors, my knowledge bearers, reminding me how learning is like a game of hide and seek. See the seeker smile, whether they find a theory of osmosis or a theory of life.
Reach the eye's limit, peering into sights, seeing something better from the lack of light. Learning unfurls in the craters of our brains, cast down in beams along varnished centuries, like a lunar guide over our next steps.
A bright light that I used to accuse of following me. Only now do I realize it was protecting me. By lighting the crevices artificial light couldn't.
Remember when we thought about what we were once blind to? Now the far side is in clear view. Soon we'll be landing on pride stemmed from proof, truth to self, and connections to everything else.
This knowledge makes my vision stronger. I no longer see just the hand, but the muscles that move each finger, the veins that transport precious blood.
Cells divide in this ever-turning circle of life, as education pulls us closer to the point of fusion. Swirling culture exists in this self-sustaining petri dish in which we reside. It morphs into home when you're not looking. Eager feet patter lecture-bound on DNA spiral staircases as the phosphate backbone of ignorance dissolves.
Crazed glimpses over edges and quenching the questions. Outlook amendments towards roaring progression, feeding off vines bearing the city's wild bliss.
The drive that Bristol aims to maintain is what keeps education alive, with heads in books and brains reaching intergalactic heights, legs providing motors to roam nighttime Bristol lights. Bristol catalyzes enzymes. It is a carved-out heart in moon rock. This section of Earth is one I will identify with until time stops.
I walk the Bristol streets under its lights, going up and down each hill, like my confidence in my studies. But the views I witness on each peak are as widespread as my future.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Honoured guests, members of the university, friends and supporters, good evening. Welcome to the University of Bristol to this very special occasion. My name is Hugh Brady. I'm the Vice-Chancellor and President of the university. As most of you will be aware, the role of the Chancellor in the UK university system is a largely ceremonial position. However, for the University of Bristol, our Chancellor is so much more. For over a century, our Chancellors have contributed to the richness of the life of our university in so many different ways, served as a source of inspiration for our students and staff, and embodied the values that we hold dear as a university. In this vein, we were delighted that Sir Paul Nurse accepted the invitation to become our new Chancellor. Throughout his career, he's been a powerful advocate and exponent of the excellence in teaching and learning, world-leading research, international collaboration, and the contribution of the Academy to wider society. Importantly, in terms of both our past history and future plans, Paul is also a passionate advocate of the value of the civic university, of which the University of Bristol and his own alma mater, the University of Birmingham, are shining examples. And one of the many joys of my role as Vice-Chancellor is that I'm so often the warm-up act for, and indeed usually upstaged by our exceptional students, and tonight will be no exception. I'm delighted that tonight's celebration of our new Chancellor is being led by our exceptional students, our musicians on stage, the poets you've just heard, and shortly one of our students' union sabbatical officers reading humanities, Zoe Backhouse, who will give you a deeper insight into the life and achievements of our new Chancellor. But now I hand over to the Chair of our Board of Trustees, Dennis Byrne. Welcome you again, and please enjoy the evening. Thank you.
I hereby announce the appointment of Sir Paul Nurse as Chancellor of the University of Bristol. Sir Paul, on behalf of the university, staff, students and alumni, and the many friends and supporters present here today, I welcome you. I now invite Zoe Backhouse, Undergraduate Education Officer at the Bristol Students' Union, to introduce Sir Paul.
Curiosity is, in great and generous minds, the first passion and the last. So wrote Samuel Johnson. And curiosity is a driving force for our new Chancellor. It is my pleasure to say a few words of introduction about him and to talk a little bit about the journey of this curious man. Sir Paul Nurse was born to working-class parents in North London. He roots his interest in science to the long and lonely walks he would take home from school, which, rather than being a chore, gave him the opportunity to examine spiders' webs and watch the changing fortunes of plants and wildlife. One of Sir Paul's defining moments came when, age 9, he witnessed the launch of Sputnik 2 from his front door in his pajamas. This started a lifelong interest in astronomy and space, symbolized today by this extraordinary hanging moon made by the local artist, Luc Juram. Despite his curiosity in living things and in space, Paul didn't take to the academic system instinctively. In fact, he failed his French O-level no less than 6 times. Because of that, he was turned down by several universities. It took an eminent professor at the University of Birmingham to spot Paul's natural talent for biology and waive the requirement for O-level language. It is perhaps reassuring for the rest of us to know that even a Nobel Prize winner struggles with something. It was Birmingham that truly opened Paul's eyes to the possibilities of science and the richness of student life in the 60s. He met his wife Anne there, who is with us tonight, and combined with an appropriate amount of student activism, including an occupation of the Vice-Chancellor's office, so watch out, Hugh. I'll take some tips later. Birmingham opened up Paul's interests in the theatre, art, music, politics, and philosophy. From Birmingham, Paul went to the University of East Anglia to take his PhD. And at that point, because of the sometimes unrewarding and repetitive demands of experiments, Paul almost gave up experimental biology. His resolve to pull through has led to the empathy that he has today for students doing research. He completely understands, from personal experience, the threat of low motivation at the front line of research. From UEA, his career took him to Sussex, and from there to London's Imperial Cancer Research Fund, which became Cancer Research UK, and subsequently to Oxford. He moved to become president of the Rockefeller University in 2003, before taking over as director and chief executive of London's £650 million Francis Crick Institute in 2010. The Francis Crick Institute is now the largest biomedical research laboratory in Europe. It houses 1,500 leading scientists from over 70 current countries and is committed to ensuring equality of opportunity for all. As well as being its chief executive, Paul continues to run his own research group there. Paul's accolades are too numerous to mention. Highlights include becoming a Fellow of the Royal Society in 1989, his knighthood in 1999 for his services to cancer research, being awarded a Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine with his colleagues Sir Tim Hunt and Leyland Hartwell in 2001, and becoming President of the Royal Society in 2010. He is vocal about the importance of scientific and rigorous research. He champions the belief that knowledge enhances humanity through culture and through civilization. In 2015, Paul published an independent review of UK research councils. His key recommendation was that research priorities and funding should be embedded into cross-government discussions. Science should be at the heart of government. I was trying when I wrote this to find some words that summed up Paul. He has described himself as a gentle anarchist. And everything I have read suggests that he stands for the values that at Bristol we hold dear: tenacity, curiosity, humility, and equality. He is a staunch and sometimes outspoken defender of education. I feel truly honoured that he accepted our invitation to become the Chancellor, and I'm sure in so saying that I speak for all students, staff, and our wider Bristol family. So, ladies and gentlemen, Sir Paul Nurse.
I now invite Sir Paul Nurse formally to take office. He will don the ceremonial robes of Chancellor, and I will present to him the key to the Wills Memorial Building, a copy of the Royal Charter, and the grant of arms, which together represent the powers held by the Chancellor of the University of Bristol. by these acts, in accordance with the Charter and statutes and on the election of court, I install you as Chancellor of the University of Bristol.
Members of the University, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm absolutely delighted to be here tonight and to become Chancellor of the University of Bristol. I'm particularly pleased that my old headmaster, Roy Avery, has joined us here tonight. He was my headmaster at Harrow County School before becoming the headmaster of Bristol Grammar School. Thank you, Roy, for coming. Thank you for my school education. Universities are one of the great institutions of society. Indeed, are marks of our civilization. And the University of Bristol is one of the great universities of the world. It is renowned for its teaching, its scholarship, its research across all disciplines, spanning the arts, the humanities, the social sciences, the natural sciences, medicine. And it's both a pleasure and an honour to become part of this community. It is also humbling for me when I consider the names of the chancellors who have preceded me. Lord Baroness Hale, Deputy President of the Supreme Court. Sir Jeremy Morse, the inspiration for Inspector Morse. Dorothy Hodgkin, Nobel Laureate in Chemistry. Viscount Haldane, architect of the Haldane Principle. And of course, for many years, the iconic Sir Winston Churchill. I hope to be able to serve the university as well as my predecessors have done. The University of Bristol was one of the 6 civic universities created in Britain at the turn of the 20th century, also known as red brick universities. I am fond of red brick universities because I was educated at one of them, Birmingham University, which, unlike Bristol, is literally built, or was literally built, in mostly red bricks. Civic universities draw their origins and draw their strengths from being embedded in their local communities, serving them with education, with scholarship, and with research. And this university has its origins firmly embedded in this civic tradition, with the founding of the University College of Bristol in 1876, precursor of the present university. There were strong supporters to this foundation from the local community, from Quakers, from Unitarians, from the Bristol Merchant Venturers, for example. It also had great support from the distinguished Oxford University classicist Benjamin Jowett. And the University of Bristol has also received huge, generous financial support from Bristol citizens over the years, particularly from the Wills family whose name is attached to this great hall. From its very beginning, University College Bristol was aware of its social obligations and of the importance of inclusiveness from all parts of the community. At its opening, women outnumbered men, this is in the 1870s, remember, by 2 to 1 as day students, and evening courses were provided to working people. This generous tradition of inclusiveness and of engagement with the city started over 100 years ago and is being expanded today with support schemes for local school pupils and the establishment of a new university campus located just to the south of the city centre, near Bristol Temple Meads. As Chancellor, I hope to be able not only to support the university, but also to help strengthen the links between the university and the city. One of the pleasures for me of becoming Chancellor is because universities have been so central to my life. Going to university was a revolutionary, indeed transformative experience for me, coming, as you've heard, from a working class background, a non-academic family. And I've spent over half of my adult life working at universities. So becoming Chancellor of the university is important to me. It's also made me think afresh about what universities are for. A university is a place for scholarship, a place for research, a place for teaching. Universities had their origins in medieval times when they were closely associated with the church, combining Christian theology and classical philosophy. They tried to answer questions about the world and to resolve contradictions about explanations trying to understand the world. They were subsequently enriched in the 17th and the 18th centuries by those two great cultural movements, the Enlightenment and the Scientific Revolution, which placed great emphasis on the importance of reason, of evidence, and of the critical appraisal of ideas. These movements led to the concept of the modern university, as envisaged by the German philosopher Wilhelm von Humboldt. He argued that the purpose of a university should be to generate well-informed human beings who would then have an obligation to playing a part in shaping the world. This should be based on extending human understanding through disciplined intellectual inquiry, as stated succinctly in present times by Stefan Collini. Extending understanding is driven by research and by scholarship, a search for truth, wherever it may lead and how uncomfortable it may be, on challenging claims and explanations of the world and of ourselves using reliable observations and experiments, on rational, consistent thinking. High-quality research and scholarship can only thrive in a place where there is freedom. Freedom of ideas, freedom of opinion, freedom of thought. For universities to work effectively, they must be free, and they also need to be embedded in a free society. Humboldt argued for the importance of freedom in teaching. He said that for a university to develop well-informed individuals, it required freedom in teaching activities through lectures, seminars, discussions, and laboratories. The generation and transmission of knowledge through scholarship and research and teaching is a public good, central to our culture and our civilization. Research creates new possibilities that also can provide economic, social improvements in health and other utilitarian benefits. Such useful knowledge is one of the reasons that society supports universities. All research shares common values and practices, whether at the discovery or translation or application ends of the research spectrum. Throughout this spectrum, research must be built on a respect for reliable and reproducible data, a skeptical approach, an abhorrence of falsification, a commitment to the pursuit of truth. But there are differences in the way that research is carried out between discovery research aimed at acquiring new knowledge and translational and applied research which are aimed at achieving specific objectives and outcomes. Research discovering new knowledge thrives on the ability of an individual to pursue research of interest to them, that engages their passion and releases their creativity. Such researchers should not be controlled by top-down initiatives and direction, which run the risk of stifling creativity and inhibiting high-quality research. Translational research, also described as oriented discovery research, is also aimed at acquiring new knowledge, but with the ultimate objective of forming the background to the solution of problems of societal interest. Translational research is best driven by identifying broad umbrellas, defining spheres of knowledge as questions that are potentially applicable. Applied research is even more goal-directed at achieving specific objectives and outcomes. And its delivery, therefore, has to be more directed. Research in all areas of this spectrum is required, and it is a mistake to focus too much on one part of the spectrum at the expense of others. Turning to the education mission of universities, it is important to recognize that teaching is not simply the transfer of information from teachers to students. It requires students and their teachers to grapple with uncertainty, to wrestle with deep issues and context, to question interpretations, to be skeptical about both orthodoxy and also their own ideas. Robert Hutchins, president of Chicago University, summed this up well when he said, "Education is not to reform students or to amuse them or even to make them expert technicians. It is to inflame their intellects, to teach them to think." And to achieve all of this, universities requires experts. Experts who embrace the scholarly values of accuracy, honesty, consistency, and knowledge in depth. In an era of post and alternative truths, experts are being derided by some individuals on the public stage who seek to influence public opinion by bluster and by unsubstantiated claims. Such individuals often lack the necessary knowledge, are unable to employ or do not wish to employ rational argument, have little respect for evidence, and yet scorn experts who base their views on all of these. This is what universities are for, to counter unsubstantiated opinion, whether from Trump Twitterland or closer to home from individuals who made wild claims during the Brexit debate. Universities are needed now more than ever before to uphold values that liberal societies cherish, that are central to civilization and to the progress of humanity. There is something that so far I have ignored in my installation speech. By the way, I normally associate installation with machines like washing machines rather than chancellors. What have I ignored is the elephant in the room, or rather, the moon in the room. We have a gigantic image of the moon suspended above us all, so large and impressive that frankly it's impossible to ignore. Now, I'm an amateur astronomer and have been for many years. Indeed, you heard of my experience as a 9-year-old chasing Sputnik 2 down the road in my pajamas, telling everybody around me this was a Sputnik 2 and there was a dog called Laika in it, and they just thought I was crazy. So I like images of the moon, and this is a magnificent 3-dimensional image of the moon. But I was not really sure how to move my speech seamlessly from discussions of universities into the subject of the moon. I thought I could refer to the ambitious aspirations of a university. The Les Brown quote, "Shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you will still be among the stars." Or to the power of creativity and imagination, with a paraphrased quote of Oscar Wilde, "A dreamer who can find his way by moonlight will see the dawn before the rest of the world." Or to the inevitability of truth, with a quote attributed to Buddha, "3 things cannot be hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth." All of these are, of course, relevant to universities. But there's another connection I would like to make. Most of the features here on the moon are named after great individuals, many of them inspirational in a university setting. Up there on that image are craters. There are mountains, there are lava seas, there are valleys, and many of them are named after great intellectuals. For example, Aristotle, Plato, Pythagoras, Lavoisier, Franklin, Dalton, Freud, Galileo, Bohr, Descartes, and Kant, to name but a few. 3 up there who are a particular favourites for me. One is Humboldt, already mentioned in the context of the invention of universities. He is a crater, 30 degrees south and 80 degrees west. 2 more are the great English scientist, Newton, who is a crater at the South Pole, and Darwin, who is a crater 20 degrees south and 70 degrees west. All very fitting for a university. I end as I began. It is a great pleasure, a great honor to be here. I will try to serve the university well, and I thank you for making me your Chancellor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
It just remains for me to close the formal part of the proceedings tonight. But before doing that, I'm going to ask you to thank our exceptional students who I think made this a special occasion, and particularly Zoe Backhouse for the wonderful citation. Special congratulations to Paul. Paul, I know I speak for everybody in this hall, all across the university, but also for our over 100,000 graduates across the world. We say we are both honoured and delighted to welcome you to our University of Bristol family. I hope you use that key wisely. I have written a note to myself to change the locks on my office door. So I suppose the case will be careful what you wish for. To our colleagues, alumni and guests who've joined us for this special event, thank you for coming. I hope you've enjoyed it. After the procession, I'd invite you to join us for some refreshments in the foyer. to enjoy the music on your way out. And probably the first Vice-Chancellor to say this, to enjoy the moon before you leave the hall. So thank you again for coming. Enjoy the rest of the evening.